Welcome to Eastern Tennessee. If you're looking for a unique dining and shopping experience packed with some historical facts, then you definitely need to experience the Old Mill. It is one of the most iconic buildings in Pigeon Forge. You can find the Old Mill perched alongside the Pigeon River in Old Mill Square next to the Old Mill Restaurant and the bridge. This square has a unique essence about it, where you can dine, shop, and tour all within walking distance. The legendary Old Mill Restaurant, serving hearty Southern classics family-style food in a beautiful historic setting. The delicious comfort food and friendly welcoming atmosphere is loved by locals and visitors alike. Have breakfast, lunch, or dinner at tables that overlook the Little Pigeon River as it flows through the water wheel of a 200-year-old mill. Wholesome ingredients, time-tested recipes, and well-honed home cooking skills are the hallmark of real Smoky Mountains cooking. They pride themselves on honest-to-goodness fried chicken, buttermilk cookies, fall-off-the-bone tender country ribs, and other Southern classics. The beginning of this area is very interesting. It all began back in 1786 when Mr. Mordecai Lewis moved from Virginia and settled on the bank of the Tennessee River, where we now know as Little Pigeon River, after receiving a land grant where he acquired a total of 151 acres along the river. Decades later, a Mr. Isaac Love, the son-in-law of Mordecai Lewis, inherits the land from Lewis and builds an iron forge along the west branch of the river that would eventually, along with huge numbers of passenger pigeons, give the settlement the name Pigeon Forge. Now we know how Pigeon Forge got its name. 50 years later, in 1830, Mr. Love's son built the Old Mill on the picturesque spot on the river, which quickly became a gathering spot for the community. Local farm families brought wheat, corn, and other crops to the mill for grinding, visited, and picked up the mail. It turned into a common marketplace to trade and news exchange. Later, at one point during the Civil War, the Old Mill was used as a hospital for the wounded. Resident ladies of the town would even use the upstairs of the Old Mill as a secret sewing shop to create and mend military uniforms for the Union. Go figure. Later on, the first ever post office comes to town and is attached to the mill itself. The original placement of the post office is where the general store is now. On June 10th of 1975, Old Mill is recognized for the importance to the community and its place in American history by being placed on the National Register of Historic Places. Since then, times have changed, but here, 200 years later, the Old Mill still harnesses power from the now called Little Pigeon Forge. They still make fresh ground cornmeal to this very day. If you can believe it, an antique collaboration of belts, stones, shafts, and pulleys come together to produce nearly 1,000 pounds of meal and grain every single day here. Each bag of grain is hand-filled and tied by a resident miller. There were even neighboring homes near the Old Mill Square that were powered by the mill. You see, the Old Mill was also a power generator that gave electricity to the town until 1935. The general store today has souvenirs and other merchandise, some made in the area, and of course the grain made right from the Old Mill in the back room, where they also give tours every day if you wish to see the actual milling being done by one of the local millers. This concrete bridge was widened to 2 lanes in the 1960s. We really enjoyed visiting the Old Mill District here in Pigeon Forge, and hopefully you enjoyed watching it and get to visit here someday. Thanks for coming along, and you all have a great day.